You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV Network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith. Johnson.
From the AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AFTERBUZZ at the Movies.
Hey guys, Bing is for doing, and what are we doing? We are doing AFTERBUZZ at the Movies. The movie we're covering today is Safe Haven, and I want to let you guys know before we even get into the movie that we're going to assume that you guys have already seen this movie. So expect spoilers, expect us to break it down, and get ready. Let me introduce my lovely hosts.
Hi everyone, I'm Marissa Serafini.
Hey everybody, I'm Dan Deevy, the owner and founder of thecinemassource.com. Follow us at The Cinema Source on Twitter.
And I'm Kaori Take.
So fancy, everybody's so fancy. And I'm Krisily Kennedy. Guys, first of all, I want to know just your overall thoughts about Safe Haven. And I'd really like to know if you read the book. Marissa?
All right, first of all, I had not read this book before I watched the movie. I liked this movie so much that I actually went straight to Target immediately afterwards and bought the book and read the book that night.
Really?
Yes. I watched it and read the book in the same night, and the book explained more about the movie ending than the movie did, because the romantic in me loved the movie and was like, aww. But the film major in me was like, WTF with that ending. What happened? So that's why I went and bought the book, and it explained my questions that I had.
Dan?
Wow, I would never read this book. I would never. Good on you for that. That's awesome. I was so disappointed with this because, you know, I'm not someone who would judge a romantic comedy immediately and say, oh, well, this is drivel. I think a lot of times rom-coms, if they hit the right notes, at the end of the movie, everyone feels like that girl who wants that boy to just say that he loves her. And that's a great feeling. I didn't get that with this, and I was so distracted because, well, one, Josh Duhamel I love. I love him in almost everything he does, but has anyone else ever seen Sleeping with the Enemy with Julia Roberts? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was this movie except good. Like, like almost scene for scene, there were moments that they were stealing right out of Sleeping with the Enemy.
Or Enough with J-Lo.
Yeah, or exactly, yeah, which was another ripoff of Sleeping with the Enemy. And there were just so many things wrong with this film that... try as I might, I couldn't love it. I couldn't even like it. I was really disappointed. But I will say this, I would like to go to a video store now and buy Sleeping with the Enemy on DVD so I can watch it again, because this movie made me want to see that again. But this, ugh, sorry.
Yeah, I was not a fan. I'd probably give it as much stars as Rotten Tomatoes gave it. Critics and not viewers. I don't know what happened there, but I don't know. Julianne Hough didn't pull through for this for me. Storyline was very predictable. I pretty much knew what was going to happen. Even the ending, I called it. I was like, that woman, she ain't alive. She's not alive. So, I don't know. I'm sorry, guys. Not my thing.
Okay, so I'm just going to address that. I do like romantic comedies most of the time. I am also a huge fan of Nicholas Sparks and his adaptations into movies. I loved The Notebook, even though a lot was changed in that. I loved Message in a Bottle. I even loved The Lucky One, even though I was not a fan of Zac Efron until seeing that movie. So with all that said, I had so much hope for this movie. I thought Josh Duhamel is amazing. I thought... Juliana, I've never really seen her in much, but I'd really like to. And I thought this movie was going to be amazing, and I was so sadly disappointed by it. But before we get into more of the reasons why I was completely disappointed, I want to get into Josh Duhamel because...
Who doesn't? Can I just say that?
You totally can. What were your thoughts on him as the leading man in this movie?
Personally, for me, I like him in almost everything I've seen him in. Life as We Know It, which was the Greg Berlanti directed film when he was there with the kids and Katherine Heigl. Like, I thought he was great in that. I love seeing him as the dad or the dad figure, because I think he's kind of like the perfect dad. He's the big brother, goofy. He's just as goofy as the kids are. When he talks to kids, in character and out of character, he speaks to them as if they're equals. He doesn't talk down to kids. So the relationship between him and kids on set, I think, is always interesting to watch, because he knows exactly how to talk to them and how to relate to them. So on that front, I enjoyed that part of it, though because of the script, there was nothing, there wasn't enough between him and his son. I mean, there were issues there that really could have been talked about and dealt with that they didn't even go near. And as far as him falling in love with her, that was one of those situations where I didn't get it. I didn't understand the appeal. I mean, the bird with the broken wing, okay, fine, but she doesn't change at all. Going back to Sleeping with the Enemy, the reason why that movie worked is because Julia Roberts worked really hard to become a stronger person. She trained herself to get ready to escape this horrible situation that she's in. And with Julia, she cuts her hair herself, dyes it herself, and yet it's gorgeous and layered and perfect.
Right.
And she moves to another town, but she's the same person. She hasn't changed at all. There was nothing about her, aside from the fact that she can see dead people, that was at all interesting or compelling. So I don't understand why he fell for her.
I have to tell you that that's the biggest story hitch for me of this movie. And I mean, you've read the book as well. So in the book, it's completely different.
Yeah.
And my favorite quote that I read, because I had to go and read other critics and see what they thought. And my favorite quote was by Dallas News, who said, "It's although the filmmakers lacked the confidence to stick with the basics of the story, which served every element needed for a sparks-infused guilty pleasure." And that is, I cannot say it in better words myself. The book gave you all that. She did premeditate. She did plan. She had all that. She was originally blonde and dyed to brunette. The basics of the story of her actually leaving, of the premeditation, of how bad the abuse was, the basics of when she got there, she didn't just sit and talk to him. It was a process of getting to know her, and they didn't show any of that.
Well, they should have developed more on that, because I felt like it was 2 hours too long.
Did you like Josh Duhamel?
I think Josh Duhamel is a pretty awesome actor to begin with. I felt like he was kind of thrown into a movie where he couldn't really show his talent, I guess. I mean, I just didn't, like, even like when he was upset, like, that's like, when you're upset and you're an actor, you're sitting there and like showing emotion. He was, pissed that he found out she was a murderer, but then he didn't really get into that. He just forgave her right away.
Well, that was, that's
also
one thing.
something not in the book.
Yeah, the book didn't have any mention about any murder.
Yeah.
So I think maybe the fact that they threw in the murder storyline for a movie would sell better and make it more compelling.
Well, that moment really got to me, because it was the moment that had to be hit. You had to hit that note. It didn't matter that it made no sense that he reacted so negatively and so like, you should just leave town. No, if you're in love with this girl, you're going to say, whoa, 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 you killed somebody?
Exactly.
What'd you go and kill somebody for? Tell me the story. You're certainly not going to say, get the heck out of town and I never want to see you again. But that had to happen to hit that note in that movie.
Well, here's the thing. He said, get out of town, and then he knocked on her door and said, I'm sorry. He didn't even say, by the way, what happened, like, what's the murder thing? That wasn't even questioned.
Right. So that's why, like, as an actor, how do you deal with that? Like, for Josh, like, he had to read that and be like, how am I going to make this not seem ridiculous?
But again, the character was also concerned for his own children.
Right. Well, that all the more to be like, hey, I'm about to let a possible murder into my house, so what happened here?
More like stay away.
My question that was huge throughout watching the film was, do you think that because the script was poor and had so many holes in the story, that's why someone like Juliana Hough didn't kind of shine through? Or do you think that that's actually her acting skills? Marissa?
The story, it's actually a really simple story. I don't think you need a lot of acting, maybe more for emotional thing. But no, it's not one that will win Oscars or anything.
That's a really interesting question, though, because I just realized that I did this. I forgave Josh Duhamel, but I didn't forgive her.
Right.
And it's because I've seen Josh in other things, and I know he can be better. I've never seen her in anything else.
Right.
So that's a really good point. It might be that she's a good actress. It's just there was nothing she could do with what was on the page.
Because I kept wondering, and I almost wish I hadn't read the book first, because I wonder if I would have enjoyed the movie more and not knowing or having anything to go back from. Because in the book, I felt and loved Katie. And in the movie, I was just like, she lacked the depth of the character. And I couldn't tell if it's because, like, even the conversation where she's having in bed with Alex and telling him about the abuse, there was nothing there. And I couldn't tell if that was her or if that's because there was just so much missing from the story and the script that she didn't know where to go from it.
I'm guessing it's a script. I haven't seen the movies, but Footloose and Rock of Ages. I heard Rock of Ages was a terrible movie. The only good thing was Juliana Hough, apparently.
But both of those she's dancing in, correct?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
she's
Which is her
acting.
skill.
That's her thing. Yeah.
But I feel like in a dancing movie, the acting is kind of forgiven if you're
Yeah,
a great
right.
dancer.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like in a movie like this where there is no dancing, it was tough to gauge because I had read the book and I wanted this great love story because I did want to cry at the end of this movie.
It wasn't gonna happen.
No, it totally didn't happen for me, and I couldn't tell if that was a story thing
You know, here's the
or
thing.
a director.
With her character, I didn't feel sympathy for her throughout the whole time. Even though she was abused, it wasn't convincing for me. It just wasn't.
Yeah, I think also, I mean, talking about adding in the whole murder aspect, how obvious was that from the beginning that was her husband? I mean,
It's pretty obvious.
why even try to couch it in some kind of mystery? Or we knew she didn't kill anybody. We knew he was after her because he was an abusive husband. I feel like they just didn't know how to tell this story in a different, compelling way, but they were also too afraid to just tell it simply. So they ended up in the middle where it just didn't work at all. If they had just told this story simply, a woman from an abusive relationship finds comfort and love from a new guy that she meets. Just tell that story and how it affects the kids. Tell that story and trust the emotions are strong enough to keep people interested. You don't need her to be on the lam because of, her ex-husband, cop, killer. But, you just don't need all of that.
And I think with Sleeping with the Enemy and the movie Enough, with both of those movies, you become invested in these women because one, you see the abuse, and two, you see how hard it is for them to plot to get away
Right.
and then to rebuild themselves.
Right.
That's something that completely lacked in this movie.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that in the movie, you feel that way with every character. You don't get in depth with any of the characters, even the storyline with the son and father. You don't really see why the son's upset other than, oh, well, I miss my mom. But,
Right.
Which is
No.
created for the movie as well.
But the storyline with the flashbacks of the husband abusing her, that was all non-linear. It was like literally out of story, like in a linear
Right.
fashion. And I thought that part was more interesting because I like non-linear stories, and it made me like get more engaged in the movie, be like, what really happened? What made her flee to this little small town? So that element I liked, which also made me push for, oh, she's with a better man because her husband was so abusive to her. I wanted more of the romantic storyline.
well, she can easily find a better man, to be
Right.
fair.
Right.
But I like that.
There's actually a question I wanted to ask, and it's good that it's three girls here. I've always been told that women look for men who remind them of their father, and women generally will seek out the same type of man over and over again. They'll always go for the nice guy, or they'll always go for the bad guy. So what I don't understand is how a woman just plausibly would make such a complete 180 on marrying the biggest bastard you could imagine, and then falling for literally the nicest man in the world.
But the thing, in the book, Katie's parents were also alcoholics. So
It's
maybe that was why she was
Hmm.
attracted to her abusive husband. But
Okay.
now she's looking for a completely different nice man.
I think it's another drop-in story where they didn't give you the backstory of their relationship, where in the beginning of their marriage it wasn't bad and it was great and he did give her everything, and it progressively got worse and the beatings got worse and it got more aggressive. And her family, she does come from a broken family, which she tells Alex all of this in the book.
Why wouldn't they say these things? This makes I would rather you tell me the story than go see the movie.
There was a complete, it was a complete lack of story, and that's why I love that Marissa. I want to know what you loved about it that made you want to go read the book, because I feel like for people that are watching that maybe haven't seen it and that are hearing us say that no, don't go see it, it's horrible. I wonder if I would have appreciated the story more had I not read the book first and not had that ulterior motives of what I wanted.
Right. I thought the character of Jo, Kobe Smulders, who I love because of How I Met Your Mother.
She's so great.
She's amazing in the book. She was interesting and mysterious, and that was attractive to me. I'm like, who is this woman? What is her role? Because she obviously knew Alex, knew the kids, and then she was forcing, well, not really forcing, but she created this new relationship, and the fact that she was only alone with Katie and all of her scenes. I was like, what is the purpose of this woman? And then when we find out the reveal at the end, I was like, wait, what? They still didn't explain her character the way the book did. And that's why I wanted to read the book, be like, I still didn't understand Jo. And the book explained it better.
Dan, what did you think about Jo?
I was really curious about that from people who've read the book, because in watching it, at the end of the movie, when it's revealed that that's his dead wife, I thought, this to me is something that was probably amazing to read, but on film it was so out of left field and so ridiculous. It melded genres to the point where it threw me. I mean, I actually asked three groups of women who were at the same screening as I was afterwards if the supernatural element really put them off. And the overwhelming response was, I don't care, because I wanted it to be romantic. And they didn't think about the practicality of the fact that this was a walking, talking ghost. That didn't even, it was just, oh, so sweet. She wants to make sure that he's loved and taken care of. And so it didn't matter. But from reading the book, was it kind of a magical thing in the book and just didn't translate to film?
No, but the book, Jo, you see her regularly throughout the book.
Much more.
She's
and it's
encouraging.
more natural.
Yes, she's encouraging Katie to go on a date with Alex. And how are the kids doing? You know, she seems genuinely interested in Katie and her new relationship. And she has this counseling, nurturing.
She's a therapist.
Yes, she is a therapist.
Oh.
And they live next door. Their houses are next door, and they have identical cottages. And they work on their cottages together. And it's a much more natural feel. In the book, you do not ever for once say, why is she there? This is really awkward. Why is she pushing herself? She's more like the nosy neighbor that moves in.
Yeah, she
that
seems
you're
like
like, oh my God, why won't she stop talking to me? And she's a therapist. So the gist that you get in the book is that she treated Alex and the children after the loss of his wife. And that's where you think she's coming from in all the conversations. And she has a conversation with her in the book that says, if you're not going to stay, then you need to leave him. And she's very adamant and almost cold about it. But you still feel like it's coming from the therapist, the good place. And in the movie, I felt like her character, I didn't understand why she was there. Even though knowing what I knew, watching it, I was like, it's so forced and it's so odd the times she shows up. And it just felt not real to me in the movie. And I think they could have done a great job.
I thought they were going, I honestly thought that she was just someone who had also escaped an abusive relationship and was trying to find shelter in a house that was far away and was in the same position as Katie and was going to be there just to say, like, look, I've been there, I've been through this, I know what you're doing, I'm here to help. So I kind of thought that, but then before it's revealed at the end who she actually is, I thought, wow, what a waste of a character. They didn't do anything with her.
Yeah.
And then it ends and I was just like, oh, wait, oh, come on, really? Like, so, yeah.
I totally called it right before, but I was like, it's going to be a silly thing, but it's the only way it's going to go because no one seems to realize she exists.
Right. The one actor that I had to say that I was really amazed at was David Lyons, who played Tierney, the husband. I felt like out of all of the people in this movie, he was the most on point with his character, where I knew that he was angry, I knew that he was an alcoholic, and I knew that he was not normal. Like, there was something missing in this guy's head. For me, he was the only person in the cast that really stood out in their acting roles.
I agree. I think his acting was amazing. He looked scary.
Yeah.
Like, he looked like a true drunk who would cause serious harm to someone.
Well, do you guys think like the way that the script was written, his character was developed more effectively than the others, and that's why his acting shined better?
I wonder if it's just he knew who he was. Like, whether the script was bad or not, what I felt like I lacked in Julianne was the depth of her character, which I feel like she didn't get. And I feel like with David, he was an alcoholic, and he was an abusive alcoholic. That was a cop. And he had to act drunk and angry. And I feel like he just did a really good job. And it almost makes me sad that of everything that I saw in the movie, he was my favorite one. Like,
See,
the
I think
abusive alcoholic.
I actually have to disagree because I thought he was a mess in this. I
Really?
thought, oh my God, I thought it was acting 101. I thought he was acting through his sweat stains. I thought that it just, I mean, yes, he was the drunk and he was the bad guy and whatever, but it never, I don't know, I thought he just went maybe a little too far with it. I didn't feel like he was grounded, and I like him. He was on ER for a couple of seasons, and he actually made that show slightly more watchable towards the end. And this is maybe the first time I'm seeing him since then, and so when I saw him come on screen, I thought, oh, I like this guy. This will be good. But I just thought he was really overdoing it, and I mean, how does a drunk guy show up to a small town carnival, hop out of his car,
Looks
and
like a mess.
and throw things and have the locals not say, should somebody do something? He don't belong here. Whose cousin is he?
Which
you
one
know?
of these things doesn't belong?
Exactly.
It was awkward.
Yeah, I mean, it was obvious he's all sweating, wet on the what's that port? Sorry, I forgot the word.
Boardwalk?
On the dock.
On the
Yeah.
dock,
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
like, oh man, and no one. I'm surprised she didn't notice he was there too.
Yeah.
Well,
Was there anything else that lacked for you completely to make it not a great movie?
I just think there was like no emotional connection to any of the characters. As much as you try, you got Katie, and she's already like. She's just kind of like there, even she's making her own life, but you don't feel any attachment towards her. And then you've got Josh Duhamel's character, where you feel, okay, he has 2 kids, but then you don't see how much he cares for his kids as much as you'd want to. And there's no character development to make this movie great.
Yeah. They also they never chose what kind of movie they wanted this to be. There's the scene when he finally finds her and she's there at the parade and she's all smiling and happy and she's with Josh. Right out of Sleeping with the Enemy, except when they did it in Sleeping with the Enemy, they were at a carnival, and Julia did her big laugh as she's holding on to her new man, and then the camera goes doom, 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 in on him, and he's standing there, and you're like, oh no, this is gonna be bad. And it had that thriller, terrifying aspect. This, they tried to do the same thing, but without the power of actually being scared. They couldn't choose whether they wanted to be a soft romance or a scary thriller.
And the way it flipped back and forth throughout the movie was confusing, I think, to viewers.
Right. They also, I mean, the same thing with the fireworks.
I don't
Nurse is
think
like,
so.
no.
Incorrect, my friend.
This movie was a simple movie. It's not one of those what the heck, mind-thrilling movies that don't really make you think. It's this simple I think they went with the more romantic side, and it's just a nice movie to just sit down on your couch and watch. It doesn't have to be a movie you have to overthink.
Your
Did you
couch,
cry?
or would you spend $14
At the end,
to see
I
it?
got worked up. I was like,
You did?
Okay, I did. Yeah, I admit.
I heard a lot of sniffles in the audience, and I didn't, and I wanted to because I bawled like a child in the book. Bawled by myself in my bed crying, and I wanted to feel that at the end of the movie, and I didn't, but I heard a lot of other people, and I think that it goes back to the book versus the movie, maybe.
I mean, I brought an onion and a slicer, and it's still nothing.
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 How about I want to know, for you guys who read the book, was his death a better death, or was it also like kind of like,
Oh, it
he's
was way better.
It was better
It was
because
at
they
her
went.
house?
They went in 2 different places. It started at the Ivan's shack, and then they moved it to Katie's home. Like you got
okay.
more isolated.
It was a little bit. It was dragged out a little bit more. It was more. There was more impact. There was more feeling. There was more everything.
Yeah.
It was.
Because when he died, I was like, oh, Okay, next.
Did they do anything with the hole in the floor?
No, that wasn't in the book.
Anybody else expecting something to happen with that?
Not in the book. There was a lot of her
Weird.
working on the house, but it was more therapy to her, which was, I'm telling you, the process of her finding herself in the book was so much better than the movie. But I want you guys to rate it. Out of 5 stars, Dan, I want you to start your rating on Safe Haven.
Can I rate the movie and Josh separately?
If you would like to, absolutely.
No. For a romantic comedy, and again, I love good romantic comedies. I love at the end of the movie feeling like I wish I was that girl. I didn't feel that this time, and again, the constant references to Sleeping with the Enemy that did it so much better. I think Josh is great in everything that he does, so I kind of forgave him for this film. But overall, I'm gonna say a 1.
Marissa?
All right. Overall, I like this movie. I like Nicholas Sparks. I love his books, so I'm kind of biased about that. I like romance, and this was an escapism. This movie, it was just a movie to watch and enjoy. Very simple. I didn't mind the acting because it was a simple storyline. They didn't have to overact. Overall, I will give it 4 out of 5. Good. It was good enough movie for me to go out and buy the book and read it in the same night.
What's the lowest score?
That would be a 1.
Maybe like half a point.
Or a 0. You could go,
Yeah,
you know, like.
could not rate it at all.
I will rate 1. Yeah, I don't know. I just wouldn't see it again. I wouldn't recommend it to my friends. You know, the acting wasn't up to par. The script wasn't fantastic. Sorry.
And I will have to go with a 1.5. There were parts that I kind of enjoyed, but other than that, I think it lacked everything that a romantic story needs. There was no character development. I didn't feel invested in any of the characters whatsoever. And I'm a huge Nicholas Sparks fan and a huge fan of him adapting his books to films. I've been a fan of most of them. There's only been one other that I didn't enjoy, and that was the last song, partly because of Miley Cyrus. So, I mean, I don't know.
No one can blame you for that.
No, and I really wanted to see Julianne Hough shine. I really wanted to see her kind of come out of her I'm a dancer role and really be a great actress, and I didn't see that. So 1.5 for me. But guys, I want to tell you, we've rated the movie, and now I want you to go to iTunes, subscribe to AfterBuzz TV at the movies, and rate and comment, and tell us what you guys think of the movies, which one of us you may or may not agree with, because we will check them out and we will read it. And
I liked it.
Yeah. Marissa?
Overall, I liked it.
You may be on Marissa's side, you may be on the rest of our sides, but we want to know. Guys, tell them where they can find you.
I am at Serafini TV on Twitter.
You can find me at thecinemassource.com, or you can follow us on Twitter at The Cinema Source.
You can find me on Tumblr and Twitter at KAORIOUS, Kaorius.
I've done the spelling bee. You guys can find me on Twitter at Krisily, and you can find all of us here at AfterBuzz TV on Twitter at AfterBuzz TV. Thank you for joining us for another AfterBuzz TV at the movies, and we hope to see you next week.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.